Every Sunday morning, around about this time, we focus on our great outdoors, of course, here in York and North Yorkshire. There is no better place to be than our neck of the woods if you're into your outdoors. And today, yeah, we are going underground. We're talking about North Yorkshire's cave system and what the thrill is that people get out of going in a hole and getting down and dirty. And someone who can lift the lid on the pleasures of caving and so much more is Tim Allen, who lives just outside Ingleton in the Craven district of North Yorkshire, and he's on the line this morning. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Steve. Yes, Jam was one of my favourite bands too.
Good stuff. Well, we aim to please, sir. We aim to please. Thank you so much for coming on and lifting the lid about caving. How did you get into it? Tell us about how you initially got into caving.
Well, I went on a school trip when I was 15 down in the Mendix in Somerset. And I have to say, on first sight of the entrance, I didn't actually think it was going to be very appealing. And I even wondered whether I could actually get myself to go in. But, with the friends around me, I went and tried it, and the cave opened up, and there was all these sort of spectacular sights and wonders. And I'm 58 now, and I've been caving all my life.
Right, okay. So what is it then about caving specifically that does it for you? That means you've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, well, it's a great adventure activity, gets you into the outdoors. Of course, people like to go into the outdoors to be close to nature, and I don't think you can get much closer to nature than being right inside Mother Earth. So that's a great aspect to it. The wonderful sights, the formations, the rock sculptures, etc. And of course, it's quite physically demanding, so you get a really good workout. And one of the most common phrases from new cavers is that they ache in muscles that they never knew they had. So it's great for getting you off the sofa and out from away from the telly.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, Tim, might be listening thinking, hold on, is it always about getting cold, damp and stuck in small places in the pitch black?
No, I mean, it's a great team exercise, so it's a really good bonding with some mates. There's always a good social before and after. You're taking part and with the sort of different challenges all together. I mean, actually, in wintertime, caving's more popular than in summertime because the temperature underground is very consistent, and it will feel warmer even on a day like today underground than it is up on the surface. And of course, with the nights drawing in, sometimes getting dark at 4:30 this time of year, the caves are dark anyway, so it doesn't really matter what time you get out. So you can have a longer period in the outdoors. All our clothing these days is thermal clothing is far greater than it ever was, and we've got good lighting systems. So there's very little suffering involved in the main.
Fair enough then. How safe is it? Because I think some people listening might be thinking, whoa, caving just strikes me as something that's a lot more dangerous than, I don't know, mountaineering, when actually it's probably just the same amount of risk. It's just different risks.
Well, I think we're probably at more danger on the roads driving to go caving and coming into the national park, etc. That's where lots of accidents seem to happen. But of course, it is a potentially a danger activity if you don't take the right sort of precautions. But the Cave Rescue Organisation, fully staffed with volunteers, people like myself, etc. Last year we rescued more sheep than cavers. And we rescued 6 times more walkers than both cavers and sheep combined. So I think that sort of tells you that, clearly there are dangers in the outdoors, whether it's mountaineering, caving, fell running, or whatever. But really, they're not that significant. And they're, as long as you take suitable precautions, proper good training, going with the experience of others. Of course, weather forecasting is a key thing. That's superb these days.
Yeah.
So, you're much better prepared, and consequently there's an awful lot less accidents and rescues.
These sheep that you've rescued, they didn't go caving, did they? They weren't caving sheep.
I don't think they intended to go caving, but
Right.
Sheep seem to like a lot of our potholes out on the moors around Ingleborough, Pennygent, Whernside and the like.
Yeah.
Are just open potholes, and for some reason the sheep seem to like to graze right on the very edge, and being rather daft, they tend to fall in. So we often help the farmers out with pulling them out, and they do survive some quite lengthy falls. I've pulled one out pretty much unharmed from having fallen 30 metres down an open shaft. So.
Yeah. Wow, caving sheep, natural selection at its best there. And what do you have to be particularly wary of then when you're out caving?
Well, there's caves that suit all different levels of ability, basically. So in the Dales, we've got some really quite hard caves, but we've got lots and lots of relatively easy caves suitable for novices. You need to have the right sort of clothing, and obviously a light is essential. It's absolutely pitch black. Couldn't see your hand in front of your face underground. And a lot of our caves in the Dales are vertical. They have vertical drops in, so you need the rope skills in order to get down them. So that requires sort of proper training. And of course, weather forecasting, as I mentioned. Certain caves you can go in almost any conditions, but other caves are flood prone, so you need to make sure you're going down those in the right sort of weather. And I mean, the British Caving Association and the Council of Northern Caving, which is the sort of regional body that looks after cavers in the north, they would always say, if you're beginning, you're better off going with perhaps a qualified instructor or joining a club.
Yeah.
And although a few people do get together with their mates and just go caving on their own, and that's how many people of my generation started out. You've got to learn by your mistakes, which is never the greatest way of taking part in any activity. So we'd always recommend joining a club or going with an instructed group.
And are there many clubs in North Yorkshire then that people can get involved with?
Oh, yes, there's loads all over. Some quite big clubs with up to sort of 300 members, some little tiny clubs with just, 8 to 10 members, all sorts to suit, your location or, whatever you like. And the best way to find them, and really to find any guidance, is there's a website called New to Caving that's endorsed by the British Caving Association and the regional bodies, and that gives you all the basic information, and it also lists all the clubs and where they're located and all the ones that are interested in helping novices into the sport, and gives a list of suitably qualified instructor groups as well. So if any of your viewers want to have a go at caving, have a look at the New to Caving website first. New
to Caving, noted, sir, noted. I know you mentioned you were 58. You are 58. It's not just a young. It's not just a young person's game, then, is it? I mean, basically, as long as you're in a group, it doesn't matter how old or young you are. You can get involved.
Well, indeed. I mean, you'll see around Ribble Head, etc., during any sort of summer day, you'll see groups of young school children, aged sort of 8 years old or so, going on a instructed trip just to sample caving as part of introduction to the outdoors and the like. And then you've got students going to university. There's quite a lot of university caving clubs, and then everything beyond. And I mean, I cave with a number of people who are retired in their 60s now, and it's something that they really enjoy because it keeps them active. And one of the things we're quite involved in the Yorkshire Dales is actually looking for new caves, ones that no one's ever seen or discovered before. And we very much like being the first lights to light up a new bit of cave passage. And as the old Captain Kirk used to say, to boldly go where no man or woman has gone before.
Yeah.
So that's, and we have just over the last few years found some fantastic new caves by just removing some of the glacial fill that's blocked them up from old ice ages and things like that. And suddenly you're wandering down great big open passage, big plummeting pitches, waterfalls and the like. It's great fun if you break through.
I would imagine incredible thrill. So, I mean, time's ticking on, but still a couple of questions I've got for you here, Tim. Whereabouts are North Yorkshire's best caves then? Are they all in the Dales, or are there some in the North York Moors and further afield across North Yorkshire?
Yeah, I mean, they're all over, yes. The North York Moors has got a few. They've got some sort of different types of caves over there. The big sort of sporting area is more on my side of the Dales, on the western side. That's where a lot of the exposed limestone is.
Yeah.
And over here we have the Great Three Counties system, which is a 90-kilometre long 3D complex of cave passages, and it spans underneath the borders of Yorkshire, Lancashire and Cumbria. There's also the Gaping Gill system over on this side, up on Ingleborough, and that's got Britain's highest waterfall at something around 100 metres that plummets down into the sinkhole and then crashes down into Britain's largest underground chamber. And you've got to be a caver to go and see that, that spectacle down in the main chamber, which is Britain's biggest chamber as well. So, but there's sporting caving to be had throughout the Dales, all east, west, north, south.
Yeah. It's just finally then, if people are interested in caving, is it expensive to get involved in? Obviously, you mentioned the specialist equipment, but obviously groups would have that. So is it expensive for people if they're interested in dabbling?
No, I think it's one of the cheaper outdoor activities, really, to get involved in, particularly to give it a try. If you approach any of the clubs or even going on a instructed trip is relatively cheap because they will provide all the basic gear. And then if you go a couple of times and you find that you quite like it and you want to do a bit more, then you can start learning the rope skills and probably buying some of your own equipment. But compared to buying fancy mountain bikes, road bikes, kayaks, paragliding equipment, it is a pretty cheap sport.
Yeah. And just finally then, if you were to sell your passion to other people listening this morning, what is it that's so magical about caving, in your opinion, just finally, Tim?
Well, I mean, as I've explained, the sites are quite wonderful, and it's a great way to spend a day out. But for me personally, I mean, I first went at 15, like I said, but I got a fantastic job through caving in the rope access industry. I met my wife through caving, and I've travelled extensively around the world, basically looking at one cave at a time. China, Vietnam, Mexico, Australia, all over Europe, etc., Iran, Oman, the Americas, Belize. I've been everywhere, just really for the potholing. But on the upside, I've also done some extensive travelling while looking for caves. So it's been it's offered me a great lifestyle, really, and I highly recommend it to anybody to give it a go and see if it's their thing.
Excellent. Tim, great to chat to you this morning, and thank you so much for lifting the lid on caving in North Yorkshire. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see you underground, Steve, sometime, eh?
You never know, sir. Never say never. Thank you very much. Good to speak to you, Tim.
Okay, bye-bye to everyone.
Bye-bye. That's Tim Allen, who lives just outside Ingleton in the Craven district of North Yorkshire, talking about caving, going underground. Would you give it a go? Check out New to Caving online.